Tonight on the weekly Armchair Kickoff, we're joined by podcast regular and Chelsea supporter Jack Clemson. We're also joined by a fellow Tottenham Hotspur man, Steve McGrath, and from Football CFB, Callum McFadden. How are you doing, boys? How's things?
Good. All good. You?
Good stuff now. Good, yeah, all good. Are we all excited for the next week and a half of European football, which we've missed probably for the last 4 months?
I don't think anyone in this room is probably looking forward to it now. If Keane was here, maybe, but
yeah, absolutely.
The rest of us, I think we can take it or leave it now at this stage.
We can probably watch it more relaxed than what we usually do, I suppose.
Yeah, all hoping that Man United lose.
Yeah, exactly. So I suppose starting off first, I'm going to go to Callum. So last night's game was Copenhagen and Manchester United. How did we feel about the performance, Callum? Was it underwhelming? And did other teams left in the European competition look at it and kind of go, do we actually have to fear Man United in this, or we have a good chance of beating them in maybe the semis or final?
I think you've summed it up by saying I think the other sides will be looking at Man United after that and thinking if they turn up with that level of performance in the semi-final, we've got a real chance. I mean, it looks as if Wolves can get through tonight against Sevilla, it could be an old Premier League clash. I think Wolves would fancy themselves in that game because they've caused United troubles in the league over the last few years. And I think for me, I don't think Nuno will be getting into that game with any fear. Sevilla, we all know they've troubled United in the past in the Champions League as well, under Mourinho. So again, they're a team that won't be fearing United. You look at Inter Milan last night, and if you look at them, I mean, Lukaku, player Manchester United let go, was absolutely superb by all accounts. I only saw the goals, and he'll have a point to prove. Obviously, he won't be playing against United in the semi-finals, but if they can get to that final and United get to the final, you have to imagine he will be desperate to prove Ole Gunnar Solskjaer wrong, I suppose, in a way for letting him go. So for me, United, good to get through. I thought the Copenhagen goalkeeper was excellent, but I don't think the performance last night filled fans or even the management with a lot of confidence because, let's be honest with you, Copenhagen are a decent side, but with the team Manchester United put out last night with the likes of Fernandes, Pogba, Martial, Rashford, they shouldn't be taking it to extra time.
I think it's a really good point there, but I suppose the narrative will be now if United do get through the semi-final and Inter get through it, that final is very interesting. We have a couple of ex-Man U players at Inter currently, and it's all about that. So look, it's a very interesting tie there. Steve, what do we think about, I suppose, if United go on to win the Europa League, what does it do from next season? Do you think it gives them more momentum going into next season, or where do you think it places with them?
Yeah, I mean, look, any trophy is going to give a team momentum going into next season, so I've heard. But yeah, no, like it's going to give them obviously like a lot of belief. Like even if I look at the level I've played at over the years, like saying we did the league and Shield double 6 years ago, and that into the next season, like we kind of had an extra bit of sort of almost an extra yard in us, I suppose, from the fact that like we'd won something. So I think the players' point of view was going to give them that buzz, that little bit of belief in Ole that they probably didn't have at the start of the season. And I think from there, then they're going to say, okay, well, we've done this. How far can we push it? So I know a lot of people say it's the Europa League is like an inferior competition or whatever like that. Like I don't buy into that at all. I think yes, the teams in it aren't as at high a standard, but they're all around the standards probably. Like there are top 3, top 4 teams from all the top leagues there. So some get an easier route than others, admittedly, but that's to look at the draw too, So I think it will be more attractive to potential signings too if they're a reigning champion of a European competition.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think for the younger players, definitely, it's a massive boost. You look at the likes of Greenwood. Like, if that's one of his first full seasons to get a Europa League trophy, go into next season. I think actually last season with Chelsea winning it, obviously it was a little bit different because it was the end of the Sarri era and it was the beginning of the Lampard era. But it was something very similar. There's a lot of players in the Chelsea team that would have played in that final last year, and they would have brought it into this season. In terms of Wolves, Jack, I know we're moving away from Man United now, but in terms of Wolves, obviously they're in semi-final tonight or quarter-final tonight against Sevilla. How far can they go in terms of the team currently? Have they reached a ceiling? And what do they need to get to that next stage and maybe top four?
I don't see any reason why they can't go all the way. They've had a really good season. I think over the last couple of seasons since they come up from the Championship, they've amassed some quality players. I think they've got one of the best kind of up-and-coming managers in maybe, well, in the league, maybe even more beyond world football. And I think he's going to end up a type of Barcelona club in the next couple of seasons. To push on, look, they need, the most important thing is that they need to keep the squad or the core players that they have now. That's the most important thing. Just while we're talking about Wolves, by the way, they've just got a penalty, I think, against Seville, so they could go 1-0 up here. They need to keep their best players. That's the most important thing, and they've got a really good core. I think they need to be shrewd like they have been in terms of the signings that they've made already, and they need to continue that. I think the structure that they have at the club from the top to the bottom seems to be working really, really well. They're investing in good players, although they're not overpaying and buying stupid players. They're getting really good signings for good value money as well. So I'd love to see them win, just purely for the fact that Nuno deserves it after not getting nominated for manager of the season, at the very least. So it's an interesting one. I would have loved it to be in the final now if Wolves get through and Man United get through the semis, but look, it's not to be. So if they do get through here, it'll be interesting to see now, can Wolves do it? And I think they would. There's no reason why they can't. So
I think that's part
there.
Yeah,
they just got a penalty there.
Yeah,
they ran the length of the pitch.
Oh, Traore is a must keep. I know Chelsea were interested in him a couple of seasons ago, and I don't think he was that highly thought of. He was just a kind of speed merchant. But this year,
he wasn't at all. Yeah.
Oh, they've saved it. He's missed it. He's missed a penalty. Sorry. He's added a lot to his game this year, end product to that speed, which is just phenomenal. And Jimenez, I think I'm pronouncing that right, is a really good attacker, striker. Although, as you can see by that penalty, he won't be. So look, I don't know. It's a hard one to call, really.
I think keeping Nuno and keeping the core players is the big thing. There seems to be some kind of, you kind of mentioned a moment ago there, Jack, about they haven't spent crazy money, but it seems that the players that are in have a real bond and real relationship with Nuno, and that has seemed to carry over the last 2 years.
Does it sound familiar, Jamie?
Sorry?
Does it sound familiar?
Oh, absolutely, yeah, 100%.
But it genuinely sounds to me like how people were talking about Spurs at the start of the Pochettino era. Players that bought into the manager's philosophy, up and coming players, really hungry to prove points and stuff. Like that's and people asking like what do they need to get them to the next level. We obviously saw what didn't work for us in terms of purchases and stuff. You just hope that Wolves maybe get the backing that they need, or Nuno will be off, I think.
You could say the same thing about Chelsea this season. We're in that transition period where we're almost starting again to get back to the level that we were a few seasons ago. We have a young core squad, but we're at a pinnacle now or crossroads, should I say? Do we sign the right people and it takes us to the next level, back challenging for the Premier League, or do we? I don't mean to be horrible, but end up going further down, like our neighbours from North London. So
Arsenal.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. They've been going down a lot longer than you.
I think it's really all about, I suppose, is how good the team or the chairman thinks the team is. There has to be a level of kind of like, we're still not there. That's what happened with Spurs, I think. We kind of got to a stage where Levy said, our team is good enough. When really that wasn't what it was. We had to keep on pushing and keep on investing and make it better and better. And Wolves will get to that crossroads too, where people will go, well, who do they buy? Like, Traore is there, Jimenez is there. Who can actually replace those in the team or challenge them in the team, you need to go out and try and find those players. And they're somewhere. There definitely are somewhere, but you just need to look really well, and your recruitment policy needs to be spot on. Coming to all three of you, predictions for Europa League winner overall. What do we think?
It's hard to see past. It's hard to see past Inter now at the moment. But then again, it all depends what United turn up. If it's the United of last night, then I don't think they've got a chance. And I feel sorry for them, really. It's not their fault because they've had a long break from the game, and then they've had a good bunch of games, back to back. And I know that's the same for all teams, not just Man United, but they look a bit lackluster. So it'll be good now to see if they have the character to get them over the line. But I'm going to call Inter Milan, I think.
For me, I think if United get to the final, I do think United will go over the line and win it. But the semi-final for me will be the crucial game for them, in the sense that I know Wolves, we've talked about missing the penalty. I don't know why. I just feel that if Wolves get United, Wolves will go through, because you look at United, they're already in the Champions League. And whereas for Wolves, and for Nuno especially, this is a chance to not only win a European trophy, which would be massive, but get into the Champions League by winning this competition. So for me, I think if Wolves can get to the semi-final, I think they'll beat United, and I think they could go all the way. And I think it'd be a nice story if they did. But at the same time, as they've just missed this penalty, Sevilla are going to be no mugs. So it'll be interesting to see if they can go over the line in the quarters first.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for me, I've said Inter before we came into this stage of the competition, but I get I don't know. There just seems to be something dragging United through all the way, and
penalties.
Yeah, well, look, I didn't want to say that because I know Keane is probably watching. He's going to say penalties, but there just seems to be something there. I mean, like they keep winning despite playing poorly. So I think if they are able to pull out a good performance, I think if United get to the final, as Callum said, I think United will just have that drive about them. I think to see them over the line in terms of the final, but it's the semi-final that they will kind of have their biggest test, I feel.
Yeah, I would see United probably going all the way. I think because of the way it's gone in terms of knockout stages, there's no two legs. I think if there's two legs, it could be in maybe a bit of trouble because of the form they came in, and they look very lackluster and tired. So, but I think over the format of 3 games, it's like 3 finals. I think United will go all the way. It pains me to say. But moving on, lads, to the next section then is really, I suppose, the elite European competition, as they say, the Champions League. And we're going to go to Jack first. Obviously,
I wonder why.
Last Friday and Saturday night probably was 2 of the biggest games, with Bayern and Chelsea and Napoli and Barcelona. Jack, what did you take from that game, other than a loss, obviously? How did you feel in terms of Bayern's performance, and did they show enough in that over the 2 legs to be considered one of the favourites in the competition?
To be honest with you, look, we were out of it anyway. I fully believe that, but it was our opportunity to show a bit of character and, put in performance, maybe get a win for a bit of pride, or at least, keep us in a game. Now, I never expected us to win it, but it just really does go to show the gulf of where we're at in terms of where Chelsea are at in terms of other teams around us, like Bayern Munich. They play in probably a league that wouldn't be classed as strong as the Premier League, but they're miles ahead of us. I think we've a long way to go. Now, I think Chelsea made a really good start this year by this transfer window. By the players that we've signed, and I think that will definitely help us going forward. So time will tell on that one. This year, I think it's Man City's best opportunity to win the Champions League. I think Barcelona are there for the taking. Bayern Munich looked unbelievable, don't get me wrong, but I still think Man City are probably a better team than them. So I would certainly say that it's Man City's best chance now to win a Champions League this year. And I think if they mess this up, Pep might go, possibly. I think.
Yeah, I suppose going to Callum here, I was going to ask something very similar to that. Would it be seen as a big loss this season if Man City do not win this Champions League? Obviously, it's a very big competition and there's some really great teams left in it. But do you feel that it's probably their best chance to win this competition?
I think it's definitely their best chance, because if you look at Liverpool being the sort of benchmark in many ways, and getting to a final, then going on to win it and beating Man City along the way in the previous journeys they've been on, I think for City, Liverpool going out was probably something that really gave them even more motivation. Because I think, although Pep and City are superb, there seems to be a sort of fear factor whenever they play Liverpool for me, and I don't know whether that's maybe some fear factor from Pep towards Klopp in general, but for me, this has got to be the year that City win it, because you look at the elite teams, Bayern are doing well, but they'll only get better, I think, come next season's Champions League. I think Real Madrid, Barcelona, and others will be the same. So I think it's really win or bust in many ways. Do I think Pep would leave? It's a good point that you raised, Jack, but I think he will stay because of this sort of unique situation. Because, let's be honest, if he was to leave now, it would be absolute chaos for Man City. I suppose the only saving grace is that Pochettino would be out of work, and you would think he could be a quick fix for them. But I just think it's their best chance to win it. And having watched them against Madrid, I must say I do fancy them to win it, because I think there's so much on the line for Pep and his personal pride that this year surely has to be the year. But crucially, you mentioned it earlier on about Barcelona. Whenever Messi's involved, you just never know.
Absolutely true, yeah.
It feels
Can
like
win it on his own.
It feels like the last couple of years
Absolutely.
with Man City, Pep was very tentative in the first leg of the knockout competitions. I felt when he played us last year, he kind of put all his eggs in one basket in terms of being defensive in the quarter-final and was chasing the game in the second game. And it's very similar to what happened against Liverpool previous years. So maybe the knockout competition, again, the way it's only one leg, it's only one match, could definitely suit City in terms of their approach.
I think so, because, sorry for interrupting, but one of the things that I find about Pep over the piece since he's left Barcelona is, in the Champions League with two-legged ties, as you've mentioned, sometimes I think he tries to be too clever. I don't know if I'm sure you remember, but he went man for man all over the pitch against Barcelona a few years ago when he was at Bayern, and they get torn to shreds, and you think, why would you wait until the quarter-final of a major elite tournament to start experimenting? It just, at times, I think in the past, maybe not so much now, because I think he knows there's pressure on him to win it, but I think after Barcelona, it's as if he was, at times, and even with City, they went out in Monaco a few years ago, it was as if he was trying to overcompensate for not having Messi by showing how clever he was tactically. And I think that's caught him out many times. So you're right in the sense that I think one game, one leg as such, will give him no excuse to try and tinker with things and for 90 minutes just try and get the best result possible, which I think will help City.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree with that too. Steve, in terms of one of the outsiders in the competition, RB Leipzig, obviously you've seen him live at the end of February in the first leg against Tottenham. What do you make of them live? Are they much good? Are they ready to go on and win against Atletico Madrid?
It's one thing, like based on now, obviously, look, the second leg they kind of tore us apart a bit, but like when I was at the game and watching, like I mean, like to be fair, it kind of looked like they were going to run away with it, but like they ended up kind of clinging on to it, like, and it was just a penalty from Werner, one silly little mistake from Ben Davies, like he just rushed into a needless challenge, really, to be honest with you, and. Like, I mean, I remember Lo Celso had a free kick that was touched onto the woodwork as well. So we had our chances too. In terms of like them, like I don't know. Atletico Madrid are probably the one team they mightn't have wanted to go up against in terms of how they play and their style. And of course, now without Werner as well. Like. I think the tactics that Atletico Madrid will employ and do employ are the most like anti-Leipzig tactics out there. And again, as we've alluded to, it's this single game format like if it was over 2 legs, Leipzig maybe, because they've one game where they might be a little bit tentative, a little bit careful of what they're doing, and then they could maybe go for it in the second leg, depending on the first leg result. Like I feel that's what they did against Spurs. If like they were kind of hesitant against us for a lot of the game, and then in the away game, then they just played their own game and let us 3-0. So I don't see him getting past Atletico Madrid. However, I feel Leipzig in the next 2-3 years in terms of Champions League will be, I think they'll be a regular in the knockout stages of it, depending on obviously how their transfers go with the money that they've gotten.
I think so. I think it's very much, it seems to be a really shrewd recruitment policy there. Like, you're looking at players in the pitch when they're playing against us, and their squad seems very vast in terms of what they could bring onto the pitch. All really young players, the kind of best of the European talent. And it kind of goes on to the next point I want to make. Jack, how do we feel about the likes of Atalanta, Leipzig, Lyon? Obviously, Lyon are one of the juggernauts of French football over the last 25 years, but how do we feel about these teams into the quarterfinals? Do you feel these teams are starting to bridge the gap in terms of European competition because of their clever recruitment, or do you believe the big teams have just had really a transition over the course of this season?
I think it's a bit of both, really. I mean, let's not take away, let's say, the likes of Leipzig and Atalanta, who have done amazing in their respective leagues this year as well. Leipzig have been around for a couple of seasons and they've been getting better and better. They're kind of in a transition as well, like some other clubs, where they need to make sure that they keep their key players, particularly their 2 centre-backs. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce his name now, but their centre-backs are unbelievable now. They've lost Werner, so they need to replace him. So it's interesting to see what they do. But the German club's notorious for bringing in unbelievable, talented young players. So I think that they will be thereabouts, as Steve has said, for the next few years. I think some of the bigger clubs, like the likes of Barcelona, they're not the team they were 10 years ago. I think they're slowly declining as Messi's getting older, and he won't be around forever to keep them or bail them out, should I say, like he has done on so many occasions over the last few years. Chelsea are obviously nowhere near good enough at the moment. You can't rely on Real Madrid. I mean, they're just, I don't know, Real Madrid are just a different, that's a whole podcast on its own now, to be honest with you. The way that club is run, the way they get through managers. I think we will see more and more of the smaller clubs, and we're seeing it in the league as well, not just the Champions League. The likes of, Wolves, we'll say, for instance, kind of, coming into the top 6, and who knows where they could go. So recruitment is massive. And I think that will really determine over the next couple of years where these teams will be and if they'll still be, coming into the qualifying rounds. You always get 1 or 2 maybe that kind of have a good year, but it is coming more and more of a regularity now with some teams. So. Yeah,
definitely. I can see that. I suppose from a Spurs perspective over the last couple of years, I look at other teams like Leipzig and even like Lyon the other night. Like, Lyon had like a 20-year-old or an 18-year-old in midfield against Juventus the other night. It's unbelievable. Can't think what his name was. It's like Croquet or something like that. And he played unbelievable in the middle of the park. And you look at these players and you kind of go, where are they getting these players out of? Like, why couldn't Spurs have signed a couple of these young up-and-coming European stars over the last couple of years? And it just hasn't happened.
And do you know why that is, JB?
Paul Mitchell, the head of recruitment at Leipzig for years, was actually our former head of recruitment. I think he was at Southampton as well before us. So like, Paul, I think he's at Monaco now. I think he might be like it. Is it? But like he found Sadio Mane, he found Dele Alli, and then like a lot of Leipzig's young players. When he went there, like, that's his forte. Like, so he fell out with Danny Levy, of course, because of his recommendation was falling on deaf ears. But like, it's a lot down to him, I suppose, really, in terms of the recruitment. When you say about the young stars, etc. Like, that's what you need, those guys.
And not only that, Steve, clubs on the continent, they give their youth players a lot more trust and time on the pitch, as we do in England. So to us, like, we're kind of talking about this 18-year-old that lit up the game the other night. That's normal to them. To us, it's kind of, oh my God, they let an 18-year-old play and he done well. We don't do that as much, and we're terrible at that, even though we've got bags of talent in our youth systems. Look at Germany, for instance. That'll tell you need to know. The likes of the players that have gone over there from England and done unbelievable. Look, we're talking about bringing Jadon Sancho back for 100-odd million. Like, it's just crazy. Yeah. So, like, I mean, we need to learn from these clubs.
Yeah, like I'm trying to think. The last player to maybe burst onto the scene like that, was probably maybe Sterling.
Yeah, that was years ago.
To an extent,
Mason Mount this year, maybe.
To an extent, maybe Trent Alexander-Arnold. But I did yes, he came on the scene and just there was not many right backs doing what he did, so he kind of stood out an awful lot for that. But Sterling at the time, I feel like he played in an advanced wing position that there was loads of people doing the exact same thing at the time, and he still managed to stand out at such a young age and get that big move, big money move. So I think that's a great point, Jack, in terms of the Premier League just doesn't give that many. Look at how astounded everyone is at how well Mason Greenwood is doing. But how many other Mason Greenwoods were out there in the last 5 years, 10 years that weren't given the chance because it's the Premier League?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. I suppose go on to the next point, lads. We're going to do our predictions for these next 4 games, so the quarterfinals. So first we have PSG Atalanta. Callum, what do we think? PSG will do it, or Atalanta will spring a surprise for us?
I think Atalanta will spring a surprise. I think they've been an absolute joy to watch over in Italy, and they really are a feel-good story. I mean, the team that makes me laugh when I talk about Atalanta is AC Milan, because AC haven't played in the Champions League now for nearly 6 years, whereas Atalanta used their stadium to play Champions League football, so their fans must be absolutely distraught. But I think they will win for the simple fact that PSG obviously have went so long without playing a competitive game. PSG are a side that, I'll be honest with you, they're probably the least likeable team in Europe when it comes to the elite level, because I've always really came across as a team of individuals. I mean, I know he's away now, but you think of the likes of Neymar and Cavani fighting over penalties, and that sometimes the needless showboating you see from Neymar in the French league as well. For me, they're not a particularly likeable team. Maybe that's harsh, but that's just my opinion on it. And for me, you're seeing a fairy tale in Atalanta coming up against them, and with PSG not playing for a long time in a competitive match, really, not many games anyway, I think it's going to be a case of, if Atalanta start well and get the early goal, I think it'll be a long way back for PSG, despite their embarrassment of riches up top.
Also with Atalanta, I was reading say that they're actually in a 40 million profit over the last 2 or 3 seasons, which is unbelievable, especially when you look at the teams.
Yeah, especially
Italy. Oh my God, I think Juventus are in 200 million debt. It's crazy. I think there's only 2 teams basically in Italy at the moment that are in that big of a positive. So 98 goals this season, plus 50 goal difference.
That's obscene.
Unbelievable.
They're really hungry as well this year, and their form. I know did they lose against Juventus the other day, or was it a draw?
A draw, but it was a penalty, aren't it? It was a contest penalty.
Yeah, but I think they're hungry now. To be honest, they're underdogs as well, which is great. So I can really see them turning over PSG now, to be honest.
And their average age is 26, so you have a lot of players in that team that are at their prime, people who have a bit of experience, and they also have youth. So look, they're the team I want to go the whole way this year in Champions League. If they got to the final, it would be an absolute. I think the whole of Ireland would buy an Atalanta jersey. Move on to the next one. Obviously, we already asked Steve about Leipzig and Atletico. Could you see any surprise there whatsoever over the one game format, Steve, or is Atletico just basically a better version of what we would have played this year against them?
Yeah, I just think that the way Atletico set up is just, as I said to you, the complete opposite of what Atletico or what Leipzig would want to be playing against. So yeah, I don't see the surprise coming there, especially obviously without Werner, who was their talisman really, like against Spurs at our stadium, like in our home game. Like they tried to do everything through him, and all we had to do basically, which we did for the large part of the game, was just, you could see one of our midfielders would follow him all the way up to the edge of the D, and then one of the defenders would always kind of hang as well. So he was almost double marked at times, and then, like I said, it was only a penalty that bet us. So I think the defensive nature of Atletico Madrid would be just it would just be too counterproductive for Leipzig to break down.
And Jack, final to you, I suppose the easiest one of all, City and Lyon. See any surprises there?
No, I don't see any surprises. I think Lyon will probably win, to be fair. So. No. To be honest, no. I think City. I think City will do them. To be honest, I think they'll turn up. I don't think it won't be an easy game in any way, shape, or form. But I'm sure that Pep will. He knows that this is his best chance for could be however long. So I'm pretty confident that Man City will turn up and do a job there, to be honest.
And the final game then, I suppose, we'll put to all three of you, Barca and Bayern. What's our view on this? Do we see Barca spring a surprise there in terms of, not springing a surprise, I suppose, but in terms of Bayern look like the more dominant team over the last couple of games? Do we see Barca relying heavily on Leo Messi to have a masterclass, or is it a case of Bayern Paris and the way through it?
I think they need Messi to have a masterclass, but having watched them the other night, I think a masterclass is incoming. And to be honest with you, whenever you watch Messi, he just puts a smile on your face. So I just hope he can turn up, and whether Barcelona get through or whether they go out, I just hope we can see some more magic from him. Because, as I say, every game you watch, and he's playing, it just brings a smile to your face. The passing, the dribbling, the shooting, everything about him is just incredible. I've never seen anything like him. And Bayern have been impressive, but again, they've had a wee bit of a break since the Bundesliga ended. So could that play into Barcelona's favour? We'll have to wait and see. For me, I think it will, and I think Barcelona will win, but I don't think it will be comfortable. I think it will be very edgy and quite cagey, but I think they'll narrowly just get through.
I think, to be honest, I think Bayern look really, really strong. I know that they always do, but I just think they'll beat Barca. I don't know, you're saying like depends on a Messi masterclass, but Barcelona are always relying on a Messi masterclass, in fairness, and they're not as good defensively as they used to be. And Bayern are phenomenal. Like, I mean, Lewandowski, is on the form of his life, so. I'm going to have to go with Bayern on that one, to be honest. And it's nice to see Messi play well. We haven't got many seasons left to be able to watch the masterpiece, the masterpieces that he kind of puts out there. So it'd be an interesting one.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think that it's looking like Lewandowski obviously would have been the rightful owner of the Ballon d'Or this season if it wasn't called off. He's had an unbelievable season. Bayern seem to have strength over the pitch also, in terms of Alphonso Davies, probably the fastest player in the history of the game at the moment. He's so fast, and there's so many players in that team that can win a game. So I think Bayern will do it, but we haven't many more seasons of Lionel Messi, so hopefully he can put on a masterclass so we can all enjoy it, because obviously, he's one of the greatest footballers ever to grace the field. Final question: who do we think will be the winner of Champions League at the end of this week and a half period, or 2 weeks?
I think Bayern. I just it's like the way, like, obviously say I haven't seen them like against Spurs and against Chelsea. It's just they're absolutely ruthless. Absolutely ruthless. Like Who was it before the Chelsea game said like that he didn't want to give Chelsea any hope of a miracle, that they were going to go out and kill the game early.
I think it was Muller, wasn't it?
Was it Muller?
I think it was.
Someone said
Muller.
But that's I think that's their mentality. Is just they're absolutely ruthless in terms of just going out there like and picking teams apart. Their players, like their forwards, they seem to find space so often. Like no matter how compact you defend, they always seem to find space. Like a lot of the goals that they get are like tap-ins with 2-3 yards of space in the box, which like shouldn't happen, but they just seem to kind of pull teams apart and allow that space there. Like, you know, I would love to see Atalanta do it just for that fairy tale story. Like everyone was saying kind of about Ajax last season. But I think it's Bayern's year.
I agree. I think Bayern look really, really strong this year, and I think they're you know what, they're in a similar position to kind of what we're saying about Man City. Like, I mean, they've been knocking at the door for years and no one's answering. So it's really a good opportunity for them now to kind of, you know, win the Champions League. So I you know what, I agree with you, Steve. I think that they'll be too strong. I think they'll do it this year.
I'm going to go City. I think, as I said earlier, the one-legged tie should suit them. The pressure, I suppose, in many senses, is on Pep. And because Liverpool aren't in the competition, they've been the sort of bogey team for City, if you like, in recent years. I think this is the year they'll finally get the job done. However, don't write off
team, Callum.
Don't. I am, but don't. What I would say, though, to be fair, and it's a team. They are a team I'm about to mention who they're not glamorous by any stretch of the imagination, but in a one-legged system, Atletico Madrid could be incredibly dangerous because they'll happily suck up all the pressure, and if it goes to penalties, that just plays into Simeone's hands. So, with this situation, I think they could be in with an outside shout, because over two legs, I think they would be beaten by some of the better sides left in the competition. But at the moment, you just never know. I think you mentioned earlier about Atalanta, because of this one-legged system, we might see a complete shock in a brand new winner this year, which would be refreshing for the tournament as well.
And we have Sorry, Steve.
So no, I was just going to say, but just pop back to that format again, like just because I think like the likes of Atalanta, who might be slightly like underdogs, might have kind of tried to in one leg just be very reserved and just get through that leg without conceding, to then like maybe in the second leg then try and get through it or get a counter attack, get a 1-0 or whatever, go through. So with the single game now, it makes it a lot more interesting. So I think they've a lot more to fight for in terms of it's their first time and they're the underdogs, etc. So I wouldn't rule out any of the likes of Atalanta yet either.
Yeah, I want to go for Atalanta to win, lads. I'm going to record this moment here and hopefully...
romantic.
Yeah, exactly.
Hopeless romantic.
You can always go back to this moment, and I've said this, so I'm going to go Atalanta. And then hopefully they'll get through. But look, the one-legged format is ideal for those kind of teams, especially for a team who scores. If they can just outscore in the last 3 games, obviously to win the overall competition, and there's no emphasis on defence at all for them, so they'll just go for it. They've nothing to lose at this stage of the competition either. They're in one of those fairyland moments and they can just go forward with it. Very similar to what Wolves, I suppose, would feel like in the Europa League. Look, lads, thanks for coming on tonight. It's been a real pleasure here. Have the three of you on. Keane will be back in the next couple of days. He has a couple of shows coming up in the next couple of weeks. Some really exciting guests on. But yeah, pleasure chatting to you about the Champions League and Europa League.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Cheers, boys. Cheers, Al.
Thanks, Callum. Take care.